Do you like poached eggs? But are you intimidated on how to make them? Well, watch this video and see how I do them on this new episode of Out Loud Geek. Hi, and welcome to another edition of Out Loud Geek, where we discuss a variety of topics, including science fiction, fantasy, cooking, the outdoors, and more. Poaching eggs may seem complicated, but I have tried two different methods, and in this video I will demonstrate the method that I prefer. Before doing that, I'll briefly explain the method that I used to use, which requires a large non-stick frying pan. You would first pour enough water into the non-stick frying pan so that it's at least 1.5 inches deep. Then you heat the water until it just starts to steam and possibly have very small bubbles forming. You absolutely don't want to bring the water to a boil, and you never stir the water. You want to keep the water as still as possible to prevent the eggs from breaking apart after you put them into the water. To do that, you would simply break each egg and carefully pour it into the heated water. Then you leave the eggs alone as they cook. After about 5 minutes, the eggs should be sufficiently cooked so that you can start to remove them carefully from the water using a spoon with holes in it or a strainer. The problem with this method is that part of each egg will invariably separate into the water, and as that happens, a foamy egg mess will start to form on top of the water. I generally don't do anything to remove the foam because that will disturb the water, which you don't want to do while the eggs slowly cook. It will mean, however, that you'll have a bit of a mess to clean up afterwards, which is why you only want to attempt this method in a non-stick pan. If you attempt this in a pot or pan that isn't non-stick, it may be very hard to remove the cooked egg mess from the surface. To avoid this, I started to use an alternate method in which each broken egg is poured into its own individual silicone poaching cup. These cups are available from a variety of retail outlets, but you want to be mindful of how you prepare the cups, which I'll explain. Now, before you put eggs inside of these poaching cups, it is absolutely essential that you spray the interior of each one with a cooking spray. If you don't coat each of these poaching cups with enough cooking spray, the egg will have trouble releasing from the cup when it's done cooking. This can lead to the egg breaking, which you definitely don't want. So you take your cooking spray and you just give it a good coating on the inside. And you do that with each of these silicone poaching cups. And that's all done now. Next, you crack each egg and put one egg in each of the cups. You can do as many poached eggs and cups as you have room for in your pot, or as you have poaching cups. Carefully open the egg and drop it into a cup. And because I have raw egg on my hands, I'm now going to wash my hands off. So the next step is to simply wait for the water to heat up sufficiently before putting the egg cups inside of the pot. And when you put each poaching cup into the water, you're going to want them to float. You don't want them to sink into the water. They're going to be floating on the top. So you want to have enough water in your pot so that all four of them, or however many you're going to be doing, can all float on the surface. So now let's start putting the eggs into the water. I simply pick up each one and put it into the water. It's very simple to do. As you can see, each one is floating on the surface. And I'm going to place a lid over it. The lid will help the eggs cook and steam. So you put this over on the top, and then I'm going to set a 5-minute timer because you don't want to overcook the eggs. Overcooking will mean that it's more like a hard-boiled egg and not a poached egg. For a poached egg, you want the egg white to be completely cooked, but you want the yolk to be slightly runny. So now I just have to wait for them to start coming cooked. And as it cooks, the whites that you can see will begin to turn white. The advantage of using a translucent lid as you're poaching the eggs is that you can see how much the water is actually boiling, because you want, it's okay to have it very lightly boiling, but you don't want it to be heavily boiling. Now, as the eggs cook, you're also going to get a little bit of dripping coming down onto the eggs as they cook. I'm actually going to reduce the heat a little bit more, just so I don't get that much of a boil. Putting the lid over the water will raise the likelihood of it boiling. So you want to watch the eggs as they are poaching so that they don't start boiling too much. And I've lowered the heat down quite a bit now. And if you can see it in the video, there is now cooked white surrounding the center of the egg. So the egg whites are starting to cook. Okay, about another minute has passed, and as you can see, looking through the lid, there is not much uncooked egg white. The egg white, once it starts cooking, cooks relatively quickly. So the eggs are getting close to being done. They're not quite ready to come out. This is where the tricky part comes in, because you want to know when is the right time to take it out. So I make sure that there is no runny egg white. Once there is no runny egg white, I let the eggs cook a little bit longer to help ensure that the yolks are starting to cook, but not cook to the point where they start getting completely hard. That's the trick, knowing when to take them out of the heat. And at this point, that's all I'm waiting for, is just to see, do they look ready yet? And I'm watching them. They've been in for just over 5 minutes. I have found that in general, the ideal amount of time is around 5.5 minutes. So I'm waiting just a few more seconds before I take the lid off and then start to remove them from the water. And at this stage, I think they are pretty much ready. So I'm going to turn off the stove, and I'm going to lift the lid up and put that aside. Now, to remove the egg cups, I use a pair of tongs, 2 tongs to be exact. I grab 2 corners so that I can lift each of these little floating cups out of the water without dropping the egg back into the water. I have found that to be the best method. And when I look at the egg, I can jiggle it a little bit. I'm not seeing that much movement. That tells me that that egg white is completely cooked. If you see jiggling going on, then that means the egg white is probably not cooked fully yet. This yellow one had a little more water getting into it, so I'm going to drain a little bit of that. This one looks like it's not quite completely done. You can see just a little bit there. Yeah, so I'm going to let this one cook just a little bit longer, because it doesn't look like it has completely cooked. So I will turn the heat back on momentarily to let this last one cook a little bit more than it currently is. This one had some additional water dropping into it from the top, which may have slightly slowed the cooking process of the egg. So I'm just going to give this one just a little bit more time just to make sure that it's more thoroughly cooked. As you can see, the water starts to boil fairly quickly, but I'm going to cut the heat back so that I don't apply too much heat. I'm going to bring this more over to the middle, look at it again and see, does it look like it's cooked? Yeah, this egg is a little runny, so I'm going to let this stay in the water a little bit longer. This happens sometimes. It is a work in progress, learning how to poach eggs. Sometimes they all come out perfect. Occasionally you'll have one like this that doesn't want to cooperate. And for this one, I might actually get the lid back just to steam it to get more heat. And I'm going to lift the lid just to take a peek and see, does it look more cooked? To me, it does look like it's more cooked at this point. Yeah, this one looks better now. Try and drain a little bit of the water out. So now I'm happy with that one. And completely turn the heat off. So now it's a matter of plating. So now I'm ready to plate. And today what I'm going to do is I'm going to place 2 poached eggs on top of a single piece of a slice of dark rye toast. So these have cooled down enough. I move the silicone around a bit to make sure the egg is fully loosened. Then I flip it over and out pops an egg. Now I'm going to do the same with this one, the yellow one, but I'm going to drain this excess water out because it's got a little too much water going on. And I'm going to flip it over. Sometimes they don't want to cooperate. There we go. And there's that one. And now I can get the hollandaise sauce. By the way, this is the same hollandaise sauce that I showed how to make in the previous video. So I get a small ladle and then carefully spoon hollandaise sauce over each of the 2 poached eggs over the toast. And that looks really good. I will raise this up so that you can get a better view. Doesn't that look good? So now I'm going to do this one more time to get the last 2 eggs onto my plate. So I grab one of the cups, make sure the egg is completely unattached from the sides, and pop it over. That one didn't cooperate. Shift it around a little bit to get it where I want it on the toast. And you can use any kind of toast. We've also served poached eggs on top of hash browns, and that's actually really, really good. That one was another uncooperative one. So I'll flip that over, and there is the other poached egg. And ladle some of this very good hollandaise sauce over my own poached eggs. Like so. And like so. And now I will give a nice close-up view of the eggs. So now I'm going to cut into one of these poached eggs so that you can see what it looks like. So I break into it like so, and look at that. There is the runny egg yolk all coming out. That is going to be so good. So now I'm going to go eat. Bon appetit. Thank you for watching today. If you enjoyed this video, please be sure to press the like button below. And if you'd like to see more of our videos in the future, please subscribe to our YouTube channel right now by clicking on the subscribe button. If you'd like to leave a comment, please feel free to post one below. See you next time on Out Loud Geek.